Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of And Action Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Tommy DiNucci. As always, here is my host, Mikey Messier. Mike, how the hell are you, brother?
I'm doing good, Tommy. It's good to see you, buddy, and looking forward to a lively show. And once again, if people happen to be watching live time, Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or EDT, please chime in with your comments and share the link for to help us out get more viewers.
Yes, we're excited to see everybody. Stephen E. has already dropped in the chat. What's up, Stephen? We're going to get right into it. I had a great last week. Last week was a lot of fun. It's kind of fun. It was one of those weeks that carried out all weekend. I was kind of tired from such a wild and fun adventure of a week that I had. So I'm excited to get into it. If you've been following along, I'm working on a new documentary right now. And it's called Heart of Knightsville. And it's a really cool documentary, a little Italian American vibe. It tells about the story of St. Mary's Church and this wonderful feast that takes place every summer. And it's really exciting stuff. And we've brought on Vincent Pastore, aka Big Pussy from The Sopranos, to host it. So we're going to be talking all about him coming to town last week, what that was like, his work on the movie, a little backstory on how I met Vincent many years ago. So we're going to kind of just have a little very light show, light fare, guys. We're going to just relax and have some fun today. Stephen E. is here. Kim is here. Ariana is here. We got a full boat. What's up, everybody? It's good to see y'all here. And yeah, Mike, Vincent Pastore, the guy's a little bit of, I shouldn't say a little bit, he's a lot of bit of kind of one of these pop culture icons. When you think of gangster movies, when you think of mafia films, when you think of course, The Sopranos, you kind of can't help but thinking of Vincent Pastore.
Yeah, he's right in there, Tommy, and also I think he's had a second career in the last 5 or maybe even 10 years of kind of the talk show circuit, the Joe Rogan podcast circuit, and others, where Vincent is always just a very lovable guest. He always says something of significance without saying anything terribly divisive or offensive, while still saying things of substance, which I think is refreshing. It's hard sometimes for celebrities to or anybody to keep their opinions in a way that's significant yet not just saying stuff just for the sake of getting comments or likes or dislikes. You know what I mean? So I think
No,
Vincent,
he's a very genuine person.
yeah,
I think that sums it up in a nutshell. He's one of those people who kind of um, he's an entertainer, really. I mean, you had mentioned he's got this kind of a second act to his career, and something that he loves to do. And I think a lot of this is his personality just kind of shining. Uh, but he's in a band called Big Pussy's Gangster Squad, and it's a really cool music group. I've actually seen them before, and they're a lot of fun, man. I mean, they do a lot of classic rock and the kind of songs that when they come on, you're like, oh, I love that song. Just like, kind of feel good classic music. So he's just a genuine entertainer. And I think he really enjoys making people smile, making people happy. Um, so, I'll tell you a little bit. We'll start with where I met Vincent without getting too deep into it. Because we did, if you go into our back issues of episodes here, we did do a whole featured Vincent Pastore episode where we really did a deep dive on his whole backstory and how he kind of got into the business later in life. I think his first time on a movie set, he was 41 years old, 42 years old. So it's kind of interesting, and he's very inspirational to a lot of actors that maybe wanted to do this when they were younger but never did it because life got in the way or whatever have you. Vincent's a guy who had an entire first act of life, family, business owner, all that stuff before he even got into acting. So he's to me inspirational in that sense. That shows you it's never too late to get started in this wacky, wild business. So I met Vincent on the set of a David Gear film that David produced. Um, I want to say it was called Blood Circus. It
yes.
was like an MMA movie, something like that. And I met Vincent on the set, and I remember one thing that I really appreciate about David. David introduced me to a lot of really cool people over the years on his movie sets. And this is a lesson for people. You know, we can always learn a little something on the show, we hope. And when you're introducing someone, how you introduce them is so fucking crucial. I can't stress that enough. You know, it'd be one thing to just be like, you know, Vincent was there to give you a little sum up of the story. Vincent was there kind of just hanging out in a green room, basically, if you will. I just got to town. I'm acting in the movie, and it's my first day on set. And David just kind of walked me over to Vincent and introduced me like this, like, hey, Vincent, this is Tommy. He's a really great actor, but his real thing is he's a director. He's a writer, director, really talented guy. You know, he told Vincent about a couple of the projects that I did and a couple of the people that I worked with. Not to say that he name dropped. It wasn't about name dropping. It was more just like in a sentence or two, David basically was able to build some rapport and credibility for my character to Vincent before I even met him. So that's a big thing. If you want to introduce someone and really put them over, you know, when you introduce them, just be like, oh, don't be like, oh, this is my buddy Mike. You got to kind of say, oh, this is my buddy Mike. He's a writer. He's really talented. He's done this. He's done that. And he's done this. Don't go too big with it. You don't want to over introduce a motherfucker. I'm not saying you want to get trumpets out and start trumpeting, but it is important when you introduce someone to let that person know a couple key factoids that make them say, and this is going to sound ugly, but hey, this is why you should give a fuck about this person, basically. So I remember David gave me a really great introduction. And just like that, man, Vinny sat me down, and Vincent gets this a lot, you know, because of the whole Italian American thing. People often feel the need to like overemphasize that. So I think somebody on set, whether it was a visitor or something, had brought Vincent all these like meats, Italian meats and cheeses. So you get the provolone, you get the gabagool, you get the salami, it's all laid out. And there's a little bit of Italian bread. And Vincent's just eating. He's like, oh, look at all this stuff. Look at all this stuff. Somebody brought it's delicious. Somebody brought this over. He goes, help me eat some of this.
Oh,
right?
that's nice. Yeah, yeah.
So right there, I just met this guy. I've known him for 30 seconds. And he's already saying, help me eat some of this.
Yeah, yeah.
And sits me down. And then just like that, we clicked. And I do think too, and you know, look, I think this happens with a lot of cultures, but like when an Italian meets another Italian, there is
Sure.
this kinship. And it's almost like in a weird way, I instantly felt like Vincent was one of my uncles from Cranston. Like there's something about Italian Americans from the Northeast. If they were raised a certain way around a certain group of people, we're going to vibe. There's a good chance we're going to vibe.
I think that's great, Tommy. And, you know, I can see that. And going back to your introductions lesson there, that's true, man. And I think that's not just the entertainment world, that's anywhere. You know, I think it's a lost art, the art of introduction. And I've been, you know, the victim of doing that and the victim of not being introduced well. And it's what people fail to realize is nobody, at least most people, don't want to go on a bragging tour of what they've done, or they don't want to put
Right.
themselves over because it's seen as arrogant or obnoxious, and it seems like you've got an agenda. But especially if you're in a business situation, which entertainment business is still business, if you're going to take the time to introduce someone, like you said, make it count, because the person who's being introduced, especially let's say the less famous person, unless they're really obnoxious, are not going to want to put themselves over or say, "Hey, I'm a writer," or I'm a director," or "I'm an actor too." It feels needy. So you're basically saving your friend or your associate from embarrassment or from awkwardness. And a lot of people don't get that, but luckily for you and I, our buddy David here in Connecticut does.
It was a very nice introduction, and I appreciated it. And it worked because Vincent and I were fast friends, and before you know it, you know, after rap, we were hanging out, smoking cigars, and kicking it, and you know, just a little bit of fellowship. So Vincent and I had always kind of hit it off. We always became friends, and then years later, I had worked with him on my movie Vault. He came in and played a really great part. And I hadn't seen him in a long time, you know. We follow each other on Facebook, so I'll occasionally like a post of his. He'll like a post of mine. We've been staying on each other's radar, but I hadn't seen him in probably 5 years, something like that. So cut to, I'm making this documentary, Heart of Knightsville. I don't know if you can see, but I'm also petting my cat Larry. If this is this strange arm motion, if you guys are watching,
He's a big cat.
Don't be alarmed. Look, he's right here. He's gonna jump up as I tell this story. But basically, I am working on Heart of Knightsville, and I wrote this script based off of Bernadette Conti's book. And what you do when you make a documentary, usually, or at least this is how I approach it, I make what's called a scratch track first. And if you don't know what a scratch track is, there he is. A scratch track is really just a rough draft of the voiceover, of the narration to the movie. And what you do is you put your scratch track down, and then even before you bring in your narrator, at least you and your editor, in this case, Mikey Braga Jr., shout out to Mike Braga. Mike and I have now something that we can kind of go off of as a guideline, start to time out the piece, figure out how long this is going to be. So there I am sitting down with the scratch track, and I'm reading it. And please don't take this the wrong way, because it's going to be a great movie. But I'm reading some of this scratch track, and I look at Mike and I go, Mike, this is going to be rough. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, if we don't get the right narrator with the right personality, and we're just having to listen to all these dates and information and odd pronunciations of Italian names and Italian cities and Italian mountain chains, this is suddenly going to become awfully homeworky, brother. And we don't want to give anyone homework. I don't want my movies to ever feel like you're watching a fucking history movie in history class. And it's like one of those things where you're like, all right, at least the teacher's going to shut the lights off. Maybe I can catch a little shut-eye, brother. You know what I'm saying, Larry? Larry knows what I mean. So I realized that we were in trouble if we didn't get something special. And then Mike and I are kind of spitballing ideas. And I say, we always had the plan to bring in a narrator, but we never had the plan to actually film the narrator like a host.
Okay.
Now, anybody who knows me knows that I love my murder shows, Mike. Dateline, NBC, 2020. Love those shows. So I kind of took the page out of those shows, and oftentimes you'll see Keith Morrison, the host of Dateline, and he'll do kind of like a stand-up, direct-to-camera kind of hosting bit to intro and outro different parts of the piece. And it's very effective, and it also kind of like it's almost a little bit of brandability for your piece. Now we think of Dateline, we think of Keith Morrison, and okay, we're in the show now. So I thought, well, you know what? we gotta do that with somebody of merit, with somebody who's got a lot of personality, and let's face it, somebody who's Italian American. And Mike, within 2 minutes, Vincent Pastore kind of bells are ringing in my head that, Vincent Pastore is the guy for this. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I just think that would be a very short list. Like I'm just trying to think if I was there with you guys, who would come to mind. And I mean, very few guys. I mean, maybe Robert De Niro, Vincent Pastore. Unfortunately, the gentleman from The Sopranos, the lead guy, passed away.
James Gandolfini, rest in peace.
Yeah, he was great too. But I think Vincent, almost in a way, is the perfect guy because he's so relatable and likable, and like we were discussing earlier, he's so experienced with these talk shows and these podcasts. Another thing, just some other examples of what you're talking about, Tommy. I'm thinking kind of old school, back to Unsolved Mysteries with the guy with the hat and
Robert Stack.
Yeah, Robert Stack. And was it America's Most Wanted? Was it the John Walsh? Was that
America's Most Wanted? I think it is. I think so, Mike.
Yeah. John Walsh, his son, unfortunately, was abducted, so he launched a.
And how about here's a trivia question for you and us and Action listeners. Drop down the answer in the comments. Who was the second host to Unsolved Mysteries after Robert Stack? There was another notable, great actor, had a terrific career. If we don't get an answer in the next 10 minutes, I'll let you guys know who the other host of Unsolved Mysteries was.
It wasn't on MC Hammer, was it?
You know, that would have been an interesting choice, but it was not the Hammerman. So basically, you're right, Mike. Vincent was kind of perfect for this. And also, you know, you kind of touched upon this. He's got a really unique voice. I mean, and I don't mean like his voice from a political standpoint. I mean, the actual voice, his instrument, if you will, that he uses to speak with. It sounds really great, and I love it because it sounds kind of authentic, neighborhood, Italian American. You know, we've got a certain sound to us. A lot of people tend to make fun of it sometimes, or maybe poke fun at the, hey, this and that, and these guys and them over here. But the reality is, there's some truth to those jokes. You know, it's an interesting language. There's an interesting syntax to it that I just love. And when I hear people talk like that, it just makes me feel at home. I feel like I'm right in Knightsville. So I made the phone call. I made the old call to Vincent. And I've said this on the show before. You know, a lot of people ask me, like, oh, who are your best friends that you've worked with in terms of actors? Like, who have you really built a relationship with? And I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, relationships in Hollywood are like this. You guys aren't going to be like hanging out. You guys aren't going to be like getting dinner all the time. You guys probably aren't even going to talk on the phone ever. But here's a friend in the business. When you do call them, when you do eventually reach out with a call, a text, an email, they're going to get back to you in a timely manner and say, what's up? So that's all that I ever aspire to. When it comes to relationships with actors, you know, again, and listen, I am friends with some actors. You know, Theo Rossi is one of my best friends in the world. We talk all the time, and we, you know, it's like I feel like I'm hanging out with one of my buddies from high school. We can just laugh about whatever. But the reality is that's very rare. So like all that I'm ever trying to do is get it so that this person will pick up my call. And that's what I had with Vincent at the time. And now I feel like we're you know, way beyond that, you know, because we just had such a great couple days together. But gave Vincent a call. I told him about the project. I told him kind of what we were up against because listen, the reality is, and I don't got to go putting our business in the street, but the reality is we don't have a lot of money to make this movie.
Right.
I mean, someday I'll come forth and we'll do a and action show where we kind of almost like a deconstructed bundt cake or some kind of dessert that you would order. We'll deconstruct Heart of Knightsville, and I'll tell you from the beginning. I'll let you all know how much money we really have to make this. So I had to make Vincent an offer that, you know, I think it was respectable, but it certainly wasn't, as they say, what he's worth. Like he did a favor because he cared about the project and he cared about, you know, working with me again. And it was really fun. And one thing that I'll do, and maybe this is another, you know, we try to make this show somewhat teachable. Something that you can learn is, you know, the money was okay. It wasn't phenomenal. But the reality is, like, once he got here, I made sure that we treated him really great. You know, we got him and his driver had a really nice room over at the shout out to the Crown Plaza, Warwick. Thank you very much. Phenomenal hotel right here in Warwick, Rhode Island. Has that nice curb appeal. Makes you feel like you're staying at a nice place. So he had him and his driver each had their own very nice room. We got to town, went to dinner, and you know he had everything that he needed to kind of be in the zone. Actually, I almost felt, to use an Italian word, I almost felt scumbadi because Vincent insisted on taking me to dinner that night.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't believe it. Like he wouldn't. I even said, I was like, Vincent, I'm going to be very upset. I was like, we're gonna have to tug of war with this check, and he just insisted. He said, no, Tommy, really, no, like this is on me. So that honestly, I've almost never been out to dinner with an actor that, you know,
Picked up the
ponies up
check
for the bill. Usually it's almost like an unwritten rule. And I learned this from my very first mentor in the business way back when. He said, Tommy, the director, the producer, always, he goes, they always pay. He goes, the producer should always pay. The director doesn't pay. If they're with the producer, then the producer should pay. But the talent, the actors never pay. And I was
Right.
like, okay, copy that. So it was really nice of him to do that. And we just kind of hung out for a little while. We had a very nice dinner, one of those dinners that kind of like, goes on for a couple hours because you're just chatting and having a good time. And, the dessert comes and you're like, oh, well, I don't want to eat dessert. I'll have a cup of coffee. And you just keep it going. And
Sure.
it's funny, man. Again, like, this is just a testament to just how fucking popular Vincent Pastore truly is. Because there we are, tucked away. We're over at the Crown Plaza. It's late. It's probably like 8, 9 o'clock. Crown Plaza, Warwick. We're in the restaurant. And we're literally like behind a wall kind of thing, like a partition in the middle of the restaurant. And within minutes, we've got the looky-loos over at the other table. There was a table of like, 30s, 40s, and 50s, I'm guessing, aged women. It was kind of a mix. And they kind of started looking, and then they all started pointing, and before you know it, I'm not kidding, 7 or 8 of these women come over to the table. We're so sorry. Can we get a picture? We just love you so much. Like, and of course, Vincent is just couldn't be more gracious. Of course, come on, come here, get over here. Let's do it. Taking pictures, giving these people his time, giving them a minute, telling them, and again, like, just further shows you what a terrific guy he is. Feels the need to introduce me to everybody. This is Tommy DiNucci. He's the real reason why I'm here. This is the person you should be taking pictures with. Just like such a really classy guy. So we had a really nice dinner that night, and we were gearing up for what would be a very big day. Thursday was big, Mike, and I can't wait to tell you about Thursday because that was wild.
Yeah, I know the outline was that you guys were actually filming during the day, filming the hosting, and I'm glad that you explained what you meant by hosting the doc. And then at night, you had this kind of benefit dinner slash celebration for the actual documentary. And I was pretty impressed, Tommy, when you told me that was a double header. Like, you're doing all of this in one day, because I got to say, man, hosting a benefit or any type of fundraiser dinner, it's a lot of work that people don't always understand, that there's a lot of stress, I would say, involved. And just whenever you have, 50 or 100 people, whatever it is, together, there's a lot of work to that. And you guys are doing that on top of filming portions of this film, Heart of Knightsville, in the same day. So that's a pretty big double header there, buddy.
All I can say is Vincent Pastore has a motor on him like no other. Like, I was so impressed by his energy, brother, because like you said, you couldn't have said it better. I mean, hosting a fundraiser dinner when you're kind of the keynote guy of merit, where everyone's going to be coming up to you, taking pictures and wanting to say hi, that's like a whole day in itself. But I don't want to get ahead of myself because, Mike, we forgot one thing. In between shooting the hosting and having this big fundraiser dinner, we had about 3 or 4 hours of voiceover to record in an impromptu sort of makeshift audio booth that we set up. So it was a fucking wild day. We'll start with the beginning. My day started at right around 9 a.m. I was over at St. Mary's Church in Cranston, getting on in the building, helping the crew load in. And you know how it is, Mike. One thing that all of the civilians, I use civilians with quotes because when I say civilians, I mean anybody who's not in the business. So whenever civilians come onto a movie set, they're always fascinated just by the sheer amount of gear and lighting and shit that you need to make it happen. This was just a very simple direct to camera kind of a setup here, yet still tremendous amount of grip equipment needs to come in, lighting equipment, camera equipment. So, really, first part of our day, it's about an hour of just loading gear in and getting things set. Vincent rolls in, and this is, again, what I love about Vincent. Vincent's call time was 10 o'clock, okay? So he's got to get there at 10. The idea is the reason why we did that is because we're planning it out. We figure, okay, that gives us an hour to kind of load in, get our first shot set up, while Vincent's doing what's called going through the works, which is hair and makeup and wardrobe, getting ready for camera. We'll finish adjusting our first shot, and then by the time he's ready, that process usually takes about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Yeah, we should be getting our first shot around maybe 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock. Now, keep in mind, I'm on a very tight schedule because I knew that I had to be done at the church filming all of these direct-to-camera intro outros I had to be done with that by about 1:30, because around 2 o'clock I got a break for lunch. My crew's got to eat, and I've got food being delivered to our second location where we're going to do our voiceover. So then basically, we'll rewind a little bit. So here's what I love about Vincent. He's supposed to be there at 10. I got a text from his driver. Hey, I think we're at the building. It's 9:30. So he shows up a half an hour early, which I just appreciate so much, because you're always so nervous about people being late. But
Yeah.
when you show up early, it just squashes all that nerves. And of course, because I got a terrific crew, my makeup, hair and makeup, Gina Grenci, and Gianna Del Chapo, such an Italian name. It's a couple of real old school Italian last names there that we brought out to the movie. They were there early, which is great. So guess what? Now we're able to get Vincent through the works even faster. So it was really nice to kind of see that he showed up early. We got him ready to go, and right away, Mike. I mean, Bernadette Conti is, the producer of this project, and she's just a wonderful. Look up 89-year-old Italian lady in the dictionary, and Bernadette will come up. She's just a classic Italian woman. She's got so much spunk, so much energy. Of course, she was, getting us muffins, and she had this like apple glazed cake, breakfast pastry and coffee, and just taking care of everybody. So her and Vincent got a chance to get acquainted early in the day, which was really great. And I was happy to see that Vincent, was already kind of vibing with her. And again, right away, Vincent's like taking pictures with the guy that like runs the church, and like, just being like gracious right off the bat. We get Vincent on his mark, and we just start rolling. And I had hoped to be getting my shot, get the first shot around 11 a.m. We get the first shot off by 10:25, something like that. And we were just cruising, because again, I had like only 2 or 3 hours to film this whole portion. So we cranked through it. And as we're going, it's funny. I noticed, early on, Vincent said something slightly different than the way it was written. And I said, hey, no, listen. And he tried to correct it. And I said, no, listen. Yes, I want you to hit the important facts and dates and things like that. But I want those Vincent isms. I want people to feel like they're getting told a story by their favorite uncle. I just want this to be like this voiceover. I want it to be very conversational. Like we're just hanging out with Vinny, and he's telling us this story about this church and how people kind of got it going. So he started to kind of loosen up a little bit in making really cool choices. Like, there was one scene where they're talking about the fireworks, and he's like, at the end of the festival, he's like, the feast literally goes out with a bada boom, and he threw in like a bada bing or a bada boom, or like just a couple of like really fun Vince-isms that I think are gonna really make the whole piece a lot less stuffy. And remember, what was I worried about in the very beginning? Oh my
It would be
God.
too stiff, too educational.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
now he's being fun.
Well, I can see how this works, Tommy, because like you said, and it's really just the nature of the piece that the information kind of needs to be educational, but the way that you balance that for an entertaining movie is to have a guy like Vincent who can kind of add color. Like John Madden was a great football color analyst because he made it fun to learn about football for the average fan or the non-fan. So with Vincent, when he's approaching this audience or this project, his color, kind of like color commentary, is making this information, which needs to be told. I don't want to discount the actual storyline or the narrative, but with the coloring of the words, he's going to make it less stiff so that people can really get into it and learn as they're having fun.
That's a great comparison. Yeah, there was a little Madden vibe to what he had going on. Again, we all learn a little easier when we're having fun, and that's what I think Vincent did. So we're cruising, right? We are just clipping through this shoot. I had Sam Eilertson shoot it, who it was really fun to, think about it. Sam Eilertson and I shot the movie Vault together. You know, Sam was my director of photography on several of my early movies that, you know, really kind of the movies where I'd say like I kind of learned what the fuck I'm doing. That was all with Sam. So Sam and I have this kind of like real kinship. It's this kind of almost nonverbal communication that we can kind of put out there. And he just kind of, it's, you know, this sounds so much simpler than it really is. But from working together for so long, he kind of just knows what I like. Like he kind of already has an idea for what my eye is kind of attuned to. So we work really well together. We were cruising. Shout out to everybody who helped me there that day and make that production just go so smooth. Again, Mike Bragg is producing this movie with me. This is the first movie that he ever produced. And he's doing a great job, and he's getting to learn how to like just do a little bit of everything. Lindsay Catanzaro helped us out on set that day. Again, just doing a little bit of everything. You know, it's a small crew, but on something like this, on a shoot like this, you'd rather have a small crew that's well versed and can kind of maneuver and, you know, wear a few different hats. You'd rather have that than have a bunch of people kind of stepping over each other. Sometimes, you know, there is a too big of a crew, and on a project like this, I think that was the case. So we cruised through our shoot, and then we were headed over to the St. Mary's Feast Society, which is a really cool, you know, what it really is it's a social club. It's an Italian American social club that's associated with the church, run by a couple guys by the name of Matt Volpe and Ryan Nardolillo, who I've known from Cranston growing up since I was a little kid. So it's really fun to kind of have those guys get my back and give me not only a place to set up our voiceover, you know, impromptu studio, but then also, and this is going to lead into some of the fun stuff, the benefit dinner at the end of the movie, a little bit of fundraising. People ask me all the time, how do you raise money for movies? Well, here's one way. We're going to talk about that later. So we'll blow through the voiceover part, and then I want to get into the dinner because it's kind of fun. So the voiceover was great. Again, it was really just, it was kind of funny. Vincent goes to me, he goes, print me out big sides, Tommy, if you can. You know, I need something so I can see. And I said, okay. And maybe I overdid it because I clicked that motherfucker to 24 font, and I ended up printing up these sides that literally, like one line of dialogue, like one page had 2 lines of dialogue on it. To give you an idea of how big this fucking font was. I mean, it was, we're talking like the pages like this, the
Mega
lines
font.
of dialogue, they were like this. So it was kind of like a laugh. He like kind of laughed. He's like, "Oh, you weren't." He's like, "These are big font." I said, "Well, you said big. You want a big font because this is fucking huge." I was like, "This." You said big. So I got. It was kind of funny because when we're reading the voiceover now, it looked so fucking overwhelming because the script was like this fat. It was like the fattest thing you'd ever seen because there's only 2 lines of dialogue in each page.
Yeah.
So we sit down and I look at my sound man, Scott, and I'm like, shit, man, this is fucking thick. Like, this is a lot of pages. How are we going to, and he's looking at me, and even Vinny sees the thickness. Now, we had to be done by 6 p.m. because at 7 p.m. there was going to be this big benefit dinner, which I'm going to tell you all about. So it's, you know, by the time we finished eating, it's now probably 3 o'clock, right?
Yep.
So from 3 o'clock p.m. to 6 p.m., I got 3 hours to record the entire voiceover for this movie. So shit is on. And Vincent just gets right into it. And we basically said, all right, look, here's what we're going to do. I want you to read each line 3 times. Give me like the, you know, basically like the play it straight version, the more conversational version, and then one where we have a little fun and we maybe try to play with something a little differently. So that was it, man. We kind of just went through him. He'd read it 3 times. I would say usually it's kind of funny. You get caught in these toll booth syndrome type statements because you have to do so much work in such a short period of time. So I remember we're cooking through this voiceover. I remember just looking down at the page and he'd read his 3 times and then I'd go, beautiful. And if he said, and he goes, okay, he says beautiful, I move on. And that kind of became the thing, you know. He'd look up He'd say his thing. I'd go, beautiful. And he'd go, all right, next one. Go, beautiful, beautiful. And then if I had something to say, yeah, maybe we say this kind of like this. But everything else, it was beautiful. All right. Because we had a fucking 1,000 lines to read in 3 hours. So we're cooking, we're cranking. I got to tell you, I don't even think Vincent stopped to take a pee break. Like
Wow.
he was just fucking cranking through that shit. And when I say cranking through that shit, I don't want you to think that he was like phoning it in. It sounded phenomenal. He was just moving at a great pace. To the point where at one point he even said, all right, I'm rushing a little bit. I'm rushing. I got to slow it down. I got to slow it down. Like we almost, it became like a game. Like, can we record this voiceover before dinner? So it was fun. So we rocked through it. And then finally we realized, shit, we got 1 or 2 pages left. Look at that. And I looked at the
Right.
clock. It's only 5:30, Mike.
Wow.
We did it all in 2.5 hours.
That's awesome.
So we cranked through, and then it was time for this big benefit, and we had this real feeling of like biggest like sigh of relief, because there was a big part of me that was like picturing, all right, it's 6:50, we still have a few pages left, the benefit starts in 10 minutes. Wait staff is outside, and we were recording this voiceover literally in the room that's adjacent to this big dining hall.
Okay.
So I pictured the noise pollution hazards of people are going to start coming in, and the guests are going to be arriving, and chairs are going to be pulling out. I'm like, man, this voiceover is going to be fucked if we don't finish. So the big sigh of relief took place. We finished with plenty of time to spare. Vincent and I even had a chance to like relax a little bit before this thing started. But now let me tell you what this thing really was. Now, Mike,
And
you
Tommy,
can explain.
well, on behalf of the audience, Tommy, because I think there might be a thought balloon going on as a question for people. It sounds like you guys did awesome with getting on schedule and accomplishing the voiceovers, but explain to us, if we're not catching on, what's the reason for not having, say, the voiceovers taped on Tuesday and having the fundraiser on Wednesday night? Why put everything in one day like this? What's the benefits,
Well,
and what's
there's that old phrase that we've all heard so many times, and that is time is money, Mike.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where, again, every night that I have Vincent there, I'm taking up his time, which is valuable. And I'm taking up, it's another night in a hotel. It's another night of per diem. It's another day of food and things like that. So back to this just being, the budget is what it is. And also Vincent's time is what it is. I was happy that Vincent gave us 2 days out of his schedule to even be there, the night before and for this whole day. I never want to push my luck with talent. So to me, I kind of felt as though like, let's just do this all in one shot. Now, Mike, here's the deal, and this is why Vincent's just the coolest guy on the planet, and you can kind of back me up on this. It is not the actor's job or the talent's job to raise your funds. It's
right?
not. It's not their job at all. You call them as the talent, they come, they show up, they provide a service. That service does not include getting money for your movie. Now, there will be a residual effect when you have a nice talent attached. You're inevitably going to be able to raise money easier. However, you can't assume or expect that talent is going to do fuck all to help you raise money. I always just assume that's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's kind of the mindset that I grew up with in the business. So when I was originally approached with the idea of, the guys at the St. Mary's Feast Society said, hey, look, Vincent's so popular around here. Just so you guys know, Cranston, Rhode Island, my hometown, it's a predominantly Italian-American city. There's tons of Italians, especially this little town of Knightsville. So these guys were like, Vincent's so popular here. I think it'd be really great if for our members and open it up to the whole community, a meet and greet dinner with Vincent, where Vincent's there and people can meet him and take a picture. We'll serve a, full course dinner, veal parmesan, pasta, a little nice Italian dinner. There'll be an entertainer there. We'll have a guy that's singing some old Sinatra, Dean Martin tunes. It'll be a great night. And I was like, look, guys, that's such a great idea. And I love that idea. But I'm reluctant because now I'm asking Vincent to not only show up for a very modest rate, but I'm also asking him to promote my movie all night long and take pictures with people and potentially be, I don't want to say bothered, but you know what it's like. Everybody, you got to be on. So now, like and I told him, I go, so after working like maybe a 10 or 12-hour day, I'm going to have to ask this guy to be on for like 2 or 3 hours at a fundraiser dinner. I was like, that's a tough ask, man. I was like, I don't know about that. And then I had a conversation with Vin, and I told him, and Vin was so cool. He's like, Tommy, I've helped people, raise money before, and I've done things like this and meet and greets. And quick side note, here's another reason why I was reluctant. When you're on a hit show like The Sopranos, or name that hit show, a big part of your income after the fact, the gift that keeps on giving, is you're able to do signings at Comic-Cons, at conventions. You're doing meet and greets all the time, and you're getting paid for it. People, every time they take a picture and get an autograph, that's $25, $50, name your price. So it's like, I felt bad because I was also asking him to, okay, now I'm asking you to do something that you do on the regular to make money, meet and greet, and I'm asking you to do that on the bubble, on the arm, to support this movie. But then I had a conversation with Vincent. He was like, no, Tommy, this is a really cool project. And like, I've supported, I've helped raise funds for things before. I don't mind doing it, especially if it's the right setup and the right situation. And the truth is, man, like, I think Vincent just really wanted to have a little fun. He's a fun loving guy. And I think he was happy to, I kind of positioned it like this. I said, well, listen, Vincent, the St. Mary's Feast Society wants to have a dinner in your honor after we wrap, as a way to kind of celebrate and as a token of their appreciation for you getting involved in this, and it's going to help us raise some extra money for the film. And he couldn't have been cooler about it. The only thing, and this is again just more of his professionalism coming out, he's like, hey, Tommy, that's okay, but we got to be done. I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush the voiceover so we can go to dinner, And I was like, no. We're going to get it all in. It's going to be great. So it was really cool. He wasn't just like, yeah, fuck it, we'll go to dinner too. Oh, we'll finish when we finish. Like, his number one priority was making sure that voiceover got recorded the right way. So that was really nice to see. And then it was dinner time, Mike. It was showtime. There was over 100 Italian people that bought a ticket to come see this event.
I think that's great. And I think the way you kind of jumped in there and explained it all, it helps flesh out the story, Tommy. And I like that Vincent was very cognitive, that he wanted to get the work done first. But at the same time, like you said, he's at a point in his life where he's been very successful. He basically sounds like a man of the people. And I guess the term that I want to use is he hasn't soured on the business. He hasn't soured on being famous or being a celebrity, and he has it all in perspective. And he likes his position in life, which is to basically bring joy to people. And this audience and this project fits right into his sweet spot.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. He told me a story that was really interesting. It was about, he was at some kind of a meet and greet, and I want to say there was some kind of piece of memorabilia or something that he had, and a fan came up to him and said, I'm like the biggest fan in the world. And he was like, oh, I love that, whatever it is. I can't think of the item. It was either a pen or something. It was something that he had used in Sopranos. And Vinny was just like, you like it? It's yours. Take it. And he gave the guy this like piece of memorabilia. I was like, wow, man. I was like, that's incredible. Like, you didn't even know the guy from Adam and you just gave him that. And he goes, yeah, but you know what? He's never going to forget that moment, And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's kind of interesting. Like, there's this great Sinatra story that I heard about, some woman came up to Frank and had been waiting for him all night long and said, oh my God, my husband's in the hospital. He's your biggest fan. Can I get an autograph? And And instead of giving her an autograph, he said, "No, instead of an autograph here." And he took his fucking watch off and he gave it to the guy, to the woman. He goes, "Here, give this to your husband." And it was, it
Wow.
was expensive. It was an expensive watch, or it might have been cufflinks. I think they might have been. That's what it was. They were expensive cufflinks. They were like, silver cufflinks that at the time were probably, a few $100 a piece. And he just took them off and said, "Here, give this to your husband." And he basically said, Frank basically said, like, we can't, everything we have is borrowed. Like, we ain't taking any of this shit with us. But these memories, they live forever. Like that's what people remember. So it was kind of cool. I don't want to say Vincent was, doing a Frank Sinatra, but there was a Sinatra-ism there where it's like, look, to me, like, this is some fucking item that I used on The Sopranos, big fucking deal. If I give it to this fan, that means everything to that person, and they'll never forget this moment. To me, it's who gives a shit. So I thought that was really cool, and I got a chance to. My favorite part of the whole night was probably just like me, Mike Braga, and Vincent kind of just hung out and had a cigar before the event, and just bullshitted for an hour, and it was just really relaxing, and it was just nice to kind of hear his stories and pick his brain. But yeah, man, Vincent gets it. He understands the connection to the fans, and he told me this too. He's like, "We're nothing without the fans. Like that's it. That's everything."
That's great, man. It sounds like it's all coming together. So, at this point, now that you've filmed with Vincent and you've captured his narration and his hosting, where does the project stand at this point?
Well, before we get into that, let me just tell you kind of the highlight of the night, or one of the highlights of the night, probably for the people of Cranston and whoever else in these parts came on down there. The mayor of Cranston, Ken Hopkins, was there, and it was really great. Again, like, just everybody came out to support this event. Steven Feinberg was there, the executive director of the Rhode Island Film Commission. Just like a lot of really cool people from the area showed up to support this. And at a certain point, to everybody's surprise, Mayor Hopkins gets up on the podium there and says, "And Vincent, now we would like to present you with the key to the city of Cranston." And it was a big pop, and it was legit. He got the key to the city of Cranston. He's like the Italian Batman now. So it's kind of funny, Vincent basically, a couple jokes. "Hey, so does this mean I can get out of jail if I get pulled over? If I get pulled over around here, do I show him this?" But they had a lot of fun. Mayor Hopkins is really cool, and he really supports the arts and supports the entertainment world and what we're trying to do. And he's done a lot for revitalizing Knightsville, in that little area there. So it was a great night. It really, and I don't say this often because I don't like to bullshit. I try to keep the level of bullshit to a minimum. It really couldn't have went better, and I mean
Right.
that. Like, the whole night, so many things when you're working on any production. And Mike, I know you've dealt with this. There are so many fucking things that can go wrong. Like, so many things. The lunch shows up late. The camera stops working. The power goes out. Somebody's in a bad mood. There's just literally an infinite amount of things that can go wrong. So when the planets align and they do all just kind of click and everything goes right, you're like, "Oh God, praise Jesus."
Well,
Uh,
if you think about it, Tommy, I mean, so many things could have snake bit you. The plane could have arrived late, like Vincent's incoming flight could have been 2 or 3 hours late, and then he gets into town real late, and he's tired the next day, or
sure.
maybe the venue had an electrical issue or a water issue, and sorry folks, we can't do anything here tonight. And so you got 100 people looking to have dinner, and it has to be relocated if at all possible. I mean,
Or how about this one? How about this one? We could have. I mean, now here's the funny thing: we promoted this event with only 5 days because I was so reluctant to even. I was nervous to even ask Vincent if he would do it. So I finally, by the time I was able to get a hold of him and ask him if he could do this, we only had 5 days to promote it. And like I said, we sold 100 tickets. What if nobody showed up? That would have really sucked.
that's shocking, Tommy. I mean, I'll give you a lot of credit. I mean, to get 100 people to show up for anything with 5 days notice, that's pretty wild. So what was that like was that the venue just had like an email list or phone calls? I mean, do you know any insights on how those tickets got
Yeah.
pushed?
Yeah, so a lot of it was good old fashioned grassroots style. I mean, we had the St. Mary's Feast Society put together a really nice flyer. I'm a big sucker for a flyer, right? If you show me the right flyer, I still believe in 2023. I'm sorry. How about that? I'm in the wrong
2024.
fucking year.
Yeah.
Welcome back to 2024. I still feel as though in 2024, even though it's not the old school paper flyer like you used to go to a music show in Providence for or whatever. Yeah, that might not exist, but a good flyer that you could post up on socials and get it out there, very valuable. So the guys over at the St. Mary's Feast Society made a really great flyer with all the info. It was $50 a ticket, and that got you basically like a full meal, dinner, dancing. There was a little entertainment. Vinny even got up and sang a song. So it was really a fun night. I feel like everybody feels like they got their money's worth out of the event. And a great portion of that went to the funding of the movie. And hey, it's a documentary, so it's one of those things where people are often like, well, how much do you need? And it's like, as much as we can get, like, because documentaries just tend to kind of go on forever and ever and ever. So it's a lot of editing time, and that editing time gets very costly. So if anyone watching And Action is interested in donating some money to Heart of Knightsville, drop a comment down, and maybe we can get talking in the DMs, and I'll let you know how you can come on and get yourself a credit on the movie and be part of a really cool story with Vincent. But yeah, man, it just it came together really fast. And I think another big help to answer your question in a less than roundabout way is the St. Mary's Feast Society. I don't want to pull a number out of my butt, but they must have over 100 members. There's got to be a great deal of members that are already, in the organization. So I think that helped with the ticket sales, because I think it was, again, I'm talking about a social club. This is like a private bar where, like, on Friday nights, if you go there, there'll be, a few dozen old school Italian guys hanging out, playing cards or whatever. So the Feast Society already had a little bit of a built-in audience. And then between that and, me sharing it up on the socials and friends and family, my Aunt Donna came and my cousin Teresa. So, friends, family, everybody. Hey, you know what? It's kind of cool because I don't want to get too into the weeds, but part of this documentary is about a bunch of really just, blue collar Italian Americans that didn't have an Italian church in the city of Cranston. And they got their nickels, their quarters, their dimes, any money they could together, and they pooled it all in, and they built this church. So in a way, it's kind of cool because this movie's being built in a similar way. A lot of the people of Cranston that have friends and family that this story means something to them, they're kind of pooling their nickels, pennies, dollars. Obviously, it's 100 years later, so I hope nobody sends me any pennies. We won't really be able to do anything with that. But people have been sending their hard-earned money to help us tell this story. So it's kind of funny how art imitates life, life imitates art,
Life imitates art. Yeah.
history repeats itself. However you want to say it, that's what's happening.
Well, it's very exciting, buddy. And like I said, it's really impressive that with 5 days notice, 100 people came out for this benefit. And Vincent sounds like a true gentleman who really did a lot for this movie. And I think what I would say, Tommy, is that one way or another, Vincent has become emotionally invested into this project. So if you're looking for some celebrity involvement with a project, rather than just say, hey, I would want this guy or this actress to do this for me or be involved in this piece, look for something that has an emotional tie-in. If you went to another actor who maybe didn't have this ties to this particular community, the Italian American community in this scenario, you may not have had as much success with getting so much out of that relationship.
I don't want to speak for Vincent, but I do think he fell in love with the city of Cranston and the town of Knightsville and St. Mary's Church. And yeah, I think I think he's caught feelings for us over here in Cranston. And I love to hear that because guess what, Mike? Now, this is
What?
interesting. You had asked me what the future of the project is. So not this summer, but next summer will be the 100th anniversary of St. Mary's Church, which is the church we're telling the doc about. So the plan is to play this movie in an outdoor screening on a nice, beautiful summer July night and project the movie up against a wall outside, kind of like something, it's like an old Fellini movie. It's a very Italian thing to do. So we plan on having an outdoor screening, not this summer, but next summer. So between now and then, we'll be editing. But what did I say? Every documentary just continues to grow, and they evolve, and they always, I shouldn't say always, but they often become bigger than you ever dreamed of. Well, wouldn't you know it, that the guys at the St. Mary's Feast Society invited Vincent to be the Grand Marshal of the St. Mary's Parade this summer in July. So
2024.
Vincent, this summer, 2024.
Yeah.
So this
Right.
summer, Vincent's going to have his little Grand Marshal sash, and he's going to be waving on a beautiful summer day right in Knightsville and Cranston. And wouldn't you know it, Mike? Well, guess what that means? I got to film that, right? I can't have that
Sure.
happen and not film it. I'm going to have Vincent riding up and down the road on a fucking Rolls Royce, and I'm not going to film it and put it in my doc. Of course, I have to do that. So basically, the story evolves. The story continues to be told. And now Vincent's coming back in July. So, again, this is just so much fun. It goes from, gee, man, this thing might be boring if I don't get the right person to do this, to Vincent's now the Grand Marshal of the parade.
He's gonna take over as the mayor. Well, that mayor better watch out, because Vincent is coming for his job. He'll be King Cranston, the Cranston King, before you know it.
It could happen. It
Boy.
really could happen.
I don't know if Larry froze up the audio, the video on your end, Tommy. You're frozen, smiling with Larry the cat, but I can
he
still hear
did.
you, buddy.
That son of a bitch. I'm trying to fix it over here.
Well, this is a really good story, Tommy, and I like how, this lady I know was. We did a show 3 or 4 episodes ago about her and her book, and the heart of Knightsville, and this story is really decades in the making. This is not an overnight thing. There's the statue that was involved, and she kept the statue in her backyard. People went to her house for years and years, and so it's nice to see that this story, like you said, Tommy, it's evolving, and now you have. I mean, I guess I'm imagining in my own mind's eye that Vincent on the Rolls Royce waving to everybody, wearing the stash of the grand poobah of the parade. Like, that could be perfect end credit. As the end credits are rolling on the side, you see Vincent on the other side waving to everybody. Very cool stuff, man, and it sounds very very interesting, very good, a lot of fun, and I think you're definitely not going to have a stiff, informative documentary at this point. This is going to be a really fun piece. So I don't know if Tommy's still with us or not, folks. Tommy, I think our friend Larry the cat kind of jumped in and took over the editing. So I'm here. It's your buddy Mike Messier. This has been a great episode. If anyone has any final comments, I can get them in. As far as myself, everybody, I've been working feverishly on my artwork. You can buy some of these on the Foreign Object eBay page. I've been doing this. I've been my Many Keys short film, The Heartbreak Monologue, which we did a show on maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago. That's been accepted to the Fort Myers Film Festival in May. I believe that's May 22nd to May 26th, so I'll be down there for that. In the meantime, I've been uploading a lot of stuff. I think Stephen E. knows this. He does YouTube as well. So I've been doing a lot of stuff on One Mike Messier is my film review channel. One Man and a Camera Films for my short films and feature film Blood Sugar Sedace. That's One Man and a Camera Films. My new website for my artwork is One Artist Mike Messier. And the old school one that I think Stephen E. knows is One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan YouTube channel. So I think that's about it, folks. And Tommy, I guess he kind of got dislodged a little bit. I'm trying to see if we can get back in here, but if not, It's been a great episode. Heart of Knightsville. Very happy for him. Very happy for everyone involved. And next week we'll be back. If you have a future topic for us, please chime in. And we'll see you next time on And Action.
Hey guys, I don't know if anyone's still here. It appears as though Mike has signed off, but I'm desperately sorry that Larry has kicked my HDMI cable out, causing my computer to freeze, losing my internet signal. But I do appreciate somehow there's 5 of you still hanging in there. But yeah, we had a little technical. I'm texting Mike right now and I'm saying this will be funny. I'm gonna call Mike. We're gonna sign off on the show like this. Mikey Messier. This is gonna be funny. This is our first And Action phone call to Mike. What a time to have the show go downhill, too. We were just about to wrap this thing up. Now I've got all these weird settings on, like this touch up my appearance. I don't need my appearance touched up. I'm quite content with my appearance as is. Hey, bud, you're on And Action on speakerphone right now. It's nice that you chose to abandon ship. He abandoned ship on us.
No, I put the ship into port, buddy.
Oh, he put the ship into port, he says.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd call you and sign off with you as a team. We still have a few people hanging with us here. We want to thank everybody for watching along today. Remember, if you have any Vincent Pastore questions or any questions for us on In Action, you can drop them right there. Oh, everybody, he's doing a run-in. He's doing a run-in with the ring.
I thought I did a great job of wrapping the show before the hour mark so we could replay it. That was my strategy, buddy, but that's okay.
Oh, well, you're always thinking, Mike. I was rebooting. Larry literally kicked the fucking HDMI out, and
I saw that.
All hell broke loose.
I saw that. Yeah. Well, like I said, buddy, good episode. Very excited about this doc. And I think the overall lesson for me in this episode, Tommy, and maybe the viewers would agree, is when you have a personal connection to a piece, whether it's the producer, the director, or in this case, the host, Vincent Pastore for the Heart of Knightsville, it makes a lot of difference. It becomes more than just a paid assignment or oh yeah, let's bang this thing out real quick. And it becomes more of a thing where people care about, they're having fun, and they're doing a great job with it. And look at all the things that have kind of prospered from this. Now you have the whole. Vincent's going to be the what do you call the Grand Poobah of the parade, or the Grand Marshal?
He's the Grand Marshal. He's
the Grand Marshal. I think that's really cool because I would suggest this, Tommy, and I think it kind of goes back with Vincent. Like you said, he was on his first movie set at age 41. I think Vincent is coming from a place where, because he had a full life before he even stepped foot into the entertainment world, he actually appreciates what it's like to be the audience member in the movie theater or the person watching the show on HBO at home.
That's true.
He doesn't take that stuff for granted. And I think, not to pick on anybody in the business, but people that are kind of second or third or fourth generation celebrities, where they kind of grow up in this world, and they have so much money or so much fame and influence, and all their friends are from Beverly Hills and are famous, and they can just call any producer they want at any given time. I think they kind of don't always have an appreciation for just how special their lives are. You know what I mean? And so a guy like
Yeah,
Vincent is gonna,
I think Vincent's he's very much has a I think you could say we hear this phrase all the time, but he's down to earth. You know what I mean? Like he's not living in the fucking fantasy land that a lot of people that have reached fame are living in. So yeah, we love Vincent for that. You can check out Vincent. Search for him on social media. You can find him on Instagram. I believe it's. Let me get his handle for you. I don't want to botch this. I'm pretty sure it's the real Vincent Pastore. Um, yes, you can check him out. Official Vincent Pastore is his handle on Instagram. He's a fun follow. Check him out. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, we are knocking on the door of 3,000 subscribers. So hit that subscription button, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when we're on here. Posted a lot of really cool shorts this week, so check those out too. And we will be seeing you next week at 11 a.m. on And Action. Take care, guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Larry also apologizes.
yeah.
Bye-bye. Ends